So when the screens are lit up with the Capitol and the pictures.
I would say stick to your push card points as much as possible.
Which tolls?
Tolls, illegal immigrants, benefits. What else do you have on the
Which benefits?
welfare benefits, reform.
Reform, yes.
Timer's not working?
No, TV.
Oh, the TV, you want the TV, well, that's the remote for the timer.
No, timer's fine.
You want the TV on.
TV on so we can see.
Oh.
Oh, is
No,
that
the
what you were
timer's
saying?
working fine.
Timer. Oh, we didn't have to turn that on.
I got it.
You gotta get a tall guy. Or
No,
somebody with
it's-
remote control.
So, Kevin doesn't like the monitor on.
Really?
He doesn't like looking at himself.
Oh.
Can you blame him? I'm just,
Ouch!
I've used that joke on him before.
Yeah, lower taxes.
Local aid.
Local aid, opioid, your time on,
Mhm.
your fight with that.
We're ready anytime you are, Caitlin.
Oh, cool.
That's
He's a good man. He's a good man.
Oh, Michael. He's a good dad and everything, too.
3, 2.
Well, here we are, in the middle of the silly season. But it's not a silly issue when you say, who are we going to pick to help Milford, to represent us in Boston, to get us all of the entitlements, pieces of information we need, programs, funding. And you got to decide, who do you believe is going to best serve you and what you value. As always, you'll never hear me advocate for any candidate on this show, but you'll hear me beg you, get educated and definitely get out and vote. So let's start with an introduction.
I'm Sandra Slattery Biagetti, and I'm running for the Worcester 10th District State Representative for Milford, Mendon, Hopedale, and Precinct 1 in Medway. I was a Hopedale selectman. I was 5 years on the school committee. I presently serve on the Planning and Zoning Board of Hopedale. I'm a member of the Opioid Task Force in Hopedale, and I sit on the Board of Directors at the Milford Chamber of Commerce.
So Sandra, I start, as you know, you've been here before,
Yes.
and I end with the same question. Sandra, I'm from Milford. Why should I vote for you?
You should vote for me because every vote that I place, every bill I file, every petition I file will be in the best interest of my district and for the state of Massachusetts. It'll never be self-serving. It'll always be in the best interest.
Now, there's a number of big issues that face us here in Milford.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, we know what they are, but do you want to pick one to start, or should I?
I really feel strongly about, I'm opposed to sanctuary cities, and I really think that we're heading in that direction.
Okay, I sorry to interrupt, but can you tell me, what is a sanctuary city, or a sanctuary state, or a sanctuary? Because I'm still confused over what's the goal of being a sanctuary state or city?
It protects illegal immigrants, and I know a lot of people don't like that name, but there are people who are here illegally. It protects them from federal authorities coming in and actually, or it protects it keeps police, if they choose to do so, essentially from communicating with the federal authorities to be able to come in and arrest or take possession of an immigrant that they feel is in that community who may have committed a certain crime. My feelings on that is I feel the local police, the number one job is to protect that community above all else. And who knows the community better than the local police? So when federal authorities come in, they're not coming in, for somebody who, was shoplifting. They're coming in and they need the help of the local police. But a sanctuary city protects this certain segment of people. And what I'm trying to do, and I've actually been in contact with several different big organizations, specifically attorneys for certain organizations, and asking for their help. I feel that sanctuary cities discriminate because they only provide protection to a certain segment of the population. And if you're going to provide that protection, as far as federal authorities go, you need to do it for everyone in the community.
Now, I guess I'm confused because years ago, I was doing 59 miles an hour on the Mass Pike, and I got pulled over. Turns out in the tunnels, the Mass Pike's only 45.
Yes, it is.
The officer pulled me over and handed me a ticket to the policeman's ball. I had to pay my speeding ticket, and he gave me my ticket, sent me on my way. I wasn't arrested. I didn't get fingerprinted. I broke the law. I was going too fast.
That's right.
Ignorance is no excuse. 59 on the Mass Pike's my only ticket in 15 years, but okay. So now I think about it. For me to be arrested and fingerprinted, I've got to do something more serious than doing my little speeding routine on the Mass Pike. So I just want to make sure I understand this. If I'm arrested for things like burglary, murder, or something, as an American citizen, they're going to call the FBI or automatically with the fingerprint piece, and the FBI is going to tell our local police, hey, that is not Al Correa. That's really Joe Simmons from California where he committed murder. Hold on to him. Okay, it seems fair to me, right? If I broke the law seriously somewhere else,
That's right.
Why shouldn't Milford be protected? But now, if I'm undocumented, illegal, whatever you want to call it, are you saying that they wouldn't ask the feds if it really was me, or?
Well, if the feds are coming in, they obviously have prints. They know that person's here.
Yes.
They're asking for the help of the local police. And as I said, the local police, who knows the community better than the law enforcement office that they're coming to ask to either hold that person because they'll be coming in, or just to hold a person. And they don't have to. If it's a sanctuary city, they'll be offered protection.
But is it sanctuary for Americans too, or?
No, but that's my point.
Oh, okay.
I've been asking certain attorneys of big organizations how I can go about this. But because in Massachusetts there isn't an official law yet regarding sanctuary cities, they said it's very difficult to do the discrimination piece of it. But what I'm trying to do is if there are certain groups out there that are going to try to make this law. So I'm hoping I can stop that for the time being by filing, because it discriminates against everyone in the community, everyone except a certain few that it was made for.
Wait a minute, I was born in Milford, raised in Milford. You're not going to protect me, but you're going to protect somebody who comes into Milford.
That's exactly
and
right.
commits a serious crime.
Yes. And I'm trying to, I'm really trying to put this out there. I'm working with as many people as I can on this. And these are big national.
But what's the logic? I'm confused. I'm a little slow sometimes.
What's the logic?
Of protecting criminals who aren't American, but not protecting, I hate to say, criminals who are. Because I don't think any of them should be protected.
Honestly, I'm not the person to ask that, because I'm not asking
Okay.
to make Milford a sanctuary city. I'm absolutely opposed to it.
I mean, I could see the point where people who've come in, put their heads down, worked their whole life, never broke any laws, just, okay, I'm not really going to go out. But we're not rounding up people and fingerprinting them just because we don't know who they are. I mean, we may get those immigrants from like Hopedale or Mendon that come into our town. You know, you're not going to line them up.
I know.
Okay. I've been trying to figure out this whole sanctuary idea of why aren't you protecting everybody the same way?
That's exactly right, and that's my point. This is discriminatory towards
Americans.
towards people who actually are legal here, who have officially, who are documented, so to speak. We have Social Security numbers, and we pay taxes. We pay for our health insurance. You know, it's towards illegal
Sure.
immigrants.
Okay. I mean, I guess I got to keep asking the question as to why does this make sense, because nobody's going to be able to give me a straight answer.
Well, I'm not the person to ask, okay, because you're not going to get, I can't make sense of it either. The only thing I can do is my best to try to keep that law from coming in, and hopefully, based on discrimination, it'll stay at bay for the time being.
Okay. Now, maybe you can help me with this one too. I'm hearing that they want to increase the taxes on Metro West commuters to help Boston residents more. Are we paying enough with the Mass Pike?
Let me tell you. My reason for actually taking this on again, to run for this office again, has to do with a lot. One of them is a bill that was filed by Representative Murray to add more tolls going into Boston, on major roads going to Boston. And the reasoning for that has been said over and over again, to be fair to the people in Metro West. There is nothing fair about driving down Mass Pike and then jumping onto 128 and having to pay another tax. How fair is that to Metro West commuters?
But I thought Metro West was, sorry to interrupt, but when Governor Patrick came on, the discussion we had is, I thought the money was one way from Metro West into 128. So.
Well, no, we want to continue it on. And we're going to add more tolls on there. And the last forum we had in October of 2016, the Citizens for Milford had a forum. And I specifically said at that forum, be very, very careful with this gantry thing. It's very easy now for tolling. And don't be surprised if there are more tolls that are going to be suggested to be added on the roads. And voila, what happens probably like in February or March of 2017? That was a bill that was filed. And you mark my words, and I said this several times, there will be, if this happens, there will be electronic tolling. I mean, not electronic ticketing, okay? Speeding tickets. Once you have those plate numbers, you'll notice now, in my business, I'm noticing that the registry and inspection stations are now refusing, rejecting inspections because your plate
You can't read it.
Exactly.
I had to get new plates.
Exactly. You know why? Cameras aren't going to be able to zoom in on those
No,
plates.
that was interesting, because when we lived in Paris, they put cameras along the peripherique, the Beltway, and in the mail, you'd get a nice little notice saying, hey, by the way, you were doing 120 and 100 kilometers an hour.
Exactly.
By the way, here's your ticket.
That's right.
It just showed up at the house.
That's right. And that's it's going to happen here. It's definitely going to happen here. There's too much money to be gotten by the state that they're not going to give it up. They won't give that up. And what comes along with electronic speeding tickets is going to be an expired inspection sticker. These are all tied into your plate number. Expired registration. Also, the person who owns that vehicle, if their license is expired, you will get a ticket for all of those. This is my opinion, and this is what I see coming down the pike, is that you will get these tickets. You get 3 tickets in Massachusetts. In 12 months, you lose your license automatically, no questions asked for 30 days.
Any kind of tickets?
Any kind of tickets. And those would all be moving violations. But you can appeal it. You can go to Worcester or one of the registries.
Oh yeah, that's great. It's going to take me 3 hours to get a new license. What would an appeal take?
Well, you could appeal it with an appeal officer there saying, well, I don't feel that this is, the case. And then he says, okay, then we won't suspend your license. But by the time you find your license is suspended, you can reactivate it again because it's been 30 days. Because a lot of people don't realize that their license is suspended because it's automatic.
Yeah, but then wait a minute. If you suspend my license and I don't know, I'm not being facetious, but
No,
I don't know.
A lot of people don't.
And I'm driving along and do 30 and a 20 or, do some minor infraction. I got a headlight out.
Mm-hmm.
If I get stopped, then I'm driving on a suspended license.
Mm-hmm.
What are the odds the officer's going to have a sense of humor?
None. You're not driving your car. I'm going to tell you something. When you get out of your car, that car's not going to go with you.
Well,
It's
he won't
going
let
in
me
a different
drive
direction.
home.
That's going in a different direction, yes. Your car's impounded. That's exactly right. This ticketing system is going to be an absolute nightmare. And also, and this was before Brian Murray's time, all right, so I'm not going to lay this on him. But in June of 2016, built into the Highways and Bridges bill was the miles driven tax. That was buried in there.
Yeah, that one I didn't understand either because, okay, my daughter lives in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't drive a car.
Mm-hmm.
But she takes an Uber, she takes all that good stuff, so
Right.
she wouldn't have to pay this, or I guess
Sure she would.
technically the Uber
Sure she
guy
would.
would
There's
pay.
going to be a minimum.
Oh,
And
so it's just an increase in taxes.
they'll know she has to have an inspection done on her car. So from inspection to inspection is when they're going to calculate. Now this is how I think they're going to do it. They'll calculate how many miles you've driven. It's like a penny and a half a mile or something. If you drive a lot, look at these poor people who bought electric cars for that simple purpose so they don't have to pay all that gas, the gas and stuff.
tax.
Right. Now, all these miles they're driving, they're going to be taxed on the miles driven tax.
So I'm going to get an extra $3,000
That's
a year.
Well, I don't know if it's going to be $3,000 a
I'm
year.
driving 35,000 miles, so 300.
Well, figure, yeah, it's another excise tax, so to speak,
Yeah.
that you'll be paying. Well, what were excise taxes meant for to begin with? For that community, isn't that for the repair of the roads? Isn't that what that excise tax is for? Because your car is on the road. These are things that we are going to. It's going to get very, very, very ugly. And the system, that the electronic ticketing system is going to be such a mess.
But now, tax-wise, I remember when the current administration, Charlie Baker and Karen Polito, came in, they were trying to dig out from a pretty deep hole.
Mm-hmm.
But aren't we above the break point now? I mean, do we need all these new taxes?
Honestly, I don't think, no. There's something called tightening your belt.
Yeah, spend less.
Exactly. You spend less. You don't have to, if you don't have a source of money for something new or something big, like the raises that they gave themselves, you don't increase taxes and take it out of people's pocket again, especially when you're hitting their livelihood and the way they get to work, and there's nothing else they're going to be able to do but pay the bill.
See, I think back when we lived in Paris, first year and a half I didn't have a car. I used public transportation. Because I could go 30 miles outside of Paris. I had the RER, I took it in, no problem. There's no way of doing that. I mean, I can't drive to Franklin, take the train into Boston, take 2 buses like before when I worked in Brighton, it would take me 3 hours.
That's right.
So
That's exactly
driving the
right.
car is
we
almost.
rely on our vehicles. We do. We rely on our vehicles. And you're hitting people where there's nothing they can do about it. And this is the frustrating point. And I try to make this very clear to people. You need to object to this. This is going to make your life so difficult. And there's, it's one of those things, there's nothing I can do about it. There's everything you can do about it.
Well, electing people who stand up to it is
Who
one
actually,
thing you can
yes, who actually consider the interest of their district rather than their self-interest and financial, the raises. And, let's get me going on the raises because.
They don't deserve little raises?
No, these weren't big raises. Expense account that goes from $7,500 to $20,000. That's not a little raise.
Oh, when somebody says, do people deserve, it's 2% raise a year. A lot of my friends didn't have raises, but, there's got 2%.
Yeah, but this is an expense account.
Oh.
These are stipends. It's not salary. And what they're not telling anybody, and they didn't tell anybody, is they received, Governor Baker, December 27th of 2016, approved a salary raise for everybody in the legislature of 4.19%. But nobody's telling you that. Their salaries went up to something like $62,000, $63,000 a year. Now that's just to start. Then they propose this raise in their stipends and in their travel expense account. They don't have to put in.
Now, wait a minute. I have a travel expense account. I just
Really?
put in a $3,000 expense report. I flew to China on company business. I paid my $1,800 ticket. But I don't benefit from that.
Well, they don't have to put in expense accounts anymore.
Oh, wait a minute. Anything above $25, the IRS makes me document,
Nope.
and I have to sign that says the $3,000, $4,000, whatever I spent was 100% for the welfare of the business. So what do you mean they don't have to sign?
They don't have to. Before they would submit, say they traveled here and they traveled in
Do receipts
in
like
and
all
out,
of
in
us.
and out. They get paid to travel to work, which doesn't make any sense at all. Now they don't have to submit those anymore. It's automatically paid
Based on what?
based on their vote. Yes.
So I would get paid expenses whether I spent them or not? Life is good. I'm going to say, I can't
Isn't
do
it?
that.
The travel expense. Yes.
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Of course, it's interesting.
I just assumed that the IRS
But in
would
the
use the same rules.
In the course of this whole thing, everybody out there, and I hope everybody who watches this really lets this sink in. Because people say, don't get wrapped up in the details of something. This is a detail that is so horrendous and such a ridiculous abuse of power, is they denied everyone in Massachusetts their right to vote. It's the public's right to vote on their stipends and their travel pay. And they denied it through deceptive means, which they included these raises in with the judicial raises. And we are not allowed in Massachusetts
To vote on judicial.
judicial for obvious reasons.
But wait a
And I
minute.
agree with that completely.
When you say raises, I think of salary.
Nope, they already got that. But they don't want anybody to know that they got a 4.19% raise on December 27, 2016. Governor Baker had already approved that.
That's a salary raise.
Exactly.
A stipend raise, that's candidly feels like just another salary raise. If I don't
Well,
have to justify
They're
it.
touting it as that.
No, but if I could just say, give me X dollars a month, whether I fly to China or Saudi or anywhere, just pretend I did.
And make sure it's included in your retirement benefits too. Don't forget to add that in.
Their retirement benefits include the stipends, even though they're not traveling anymore.
The
Okay,
stipends are included into the retirement benefits.
life is good.
It's very good.
Benefits,
But I think the deceptive way it was done, the people have to let that sink in. This was so deceptive And it was a serious abuse of power. And I just don't know how they were able to get away with that.
See, Sandra, if you said I want to pay my legislators $100,000 a year, that's what we as the voters feel we should.
Exactly.
Then I feel okay. But I don't understand if this putting in if they're making 70 or 60 some and then adding this and then adding that, how do I know what I'm really paying?
Well, they get stipends for if you're going to chair a committee, or if you're vice chair of a committee. You get certain stipends, like $1,500 here, $1,500 there, and stuff like that. So it all adds up. But let's just say, okay, for Brian's position, all right, it went from $7,500.
No, it doesn't matter. It's
stuff.
from
From
a rep's position. It went from.
Well, there are different levels, okay? But in Brian's case, he went from, it was a $7,500 expense account up to $15,000. And travel included, expense account and travel included. Went to $15,000.
I don't even
So
understand.
that's quite a jump. That's 100%.
That's nice.
100%. It's a disgrace. That's what it is.
What was the rationale? Did they say, or?
Well, they hadn't had a raise since 1998.
Well, no, raise, again, that's salary.
Well,
But what is expense?
Wait a minute. When you're talking to the local, the general public out there, and you're saying, well, we hadn't received a raise since 1998 or something like that, and they rejected it then. By the way, the public rejected it then. It has nothing to do with salary, but they don't want people to know that. They had already received more of a percentage in their salary raise than most people have in their own.
Now, you talk about benefit. I'm hearing something that, again, and I apologize because I'm not the smartest person going over this whole benefit of voting. Now, to me, and again, I spent too much time in Mother Russia seeing people who had no vote or pretended to vote. What is the deal with, U.S. citizens or people who are permanent residents? Is, to me, the most important benefit I have is the right to vote, because then I get to decide who represents me.
Exactly.
But am I hearing right that we want to give it to just people visiting and hanging out?
And permanent residents also, they're to choose not to be a citizen of the United States, but they do live here a certain number of months during the year, or they may work here, and then they travel back to where they are a citizen of their country.
I had a second residence in France. And as long as you spent X months, but we never got to vote because we weren't citizens of France.
That's
and
exactly right.
That was my decision. I wanted to keep my American citizenship, and so
Of course.
I got
So
to
you
vote in the
understood.
U.S.
Right, you understood that. This was petitioned through by Byron Rushing, who is a state rep.
I was going to say, he's not from Milford.
No, he's not. I think he might be from the North Shore. It doesn't matter.
No matter, he's not from Milford.
Exactly. He petitioned that in January 2017.
Petitioned what?
He filed a petition to allow non-citizens to vote. Now, there was no support at all in January. But fast forward to October of 2017, 10 Democrats had signed on to this. And there was a comment made by a local person that it'll never get out of committee. Don't worry about it, it'll never get out of committee. We're dealing with it right now. It's getting very, very close. This non-citizen voting will, yes, only apply to voting at the local level. All right? Then they can they'd be able to run for office too.
So somebody who is in Milford, not a citizen,
Right.
could vote on who's running our schools and our selectmen?
Exactly.
Okay, I'm going to ask the same stupid question. What's the logic behind that?
There is none. Because they're a part of the community. Now, this is what's been, mentioned. They're part of the community. They have invested themselves in the community, so they should have the right to have a say.
step up and get your residency. Then I
Exactly.
agree.
Exactly. Follow the steps and the rules, yes.
I mean, my grandfather, God rest his soul, came here.
Mm-hmm.
My mother has been here for 70-some years, and she became an American citizen, and at that point, she got to vote. And
right.
she was no more, no less than people born here, and she was an American citizen. She got to vote.
She paid her dues.
But if she decided, like I did, I didn't feel I had a right to vote in the local Saint-Germain-en-Laye elections. I lived there, kind of.
That's right.
But my home was always Milford. I was just kind of visiting there. So,
No, honestly, it's another one of my predictions I'm going to make. If this comes to fruition and certain communities have allowed non-citizens to vote in their local communities, that's just the start. It's just the beginning. It will elevate to a state level. And then it'll elevate to the federal level.
wait a minute. I thought people in Puerto Rico can't vote for president. And they've been, quote, Americans forever. But they're not able to vote for the presidency, right? Okay, again, I'm confused because...
I'm not aware of the rules.
No,
in
but
Puerto
I'm
Rico,
just saying,
so I
what is
can't-
the logic? I mean, I have no problem. You want the benefit? Step up and invest.
That's right.
You know, if
Contribute.
you contribute, but if you
That's right.
are vested in Milford and you take out your residency and you pull your fair share, then I don't care where you came from. I don't care what you look like. You should have the same rights that I do. But if you're not willing to take on the responsibility,
Well, honestly, I don't think so much that non-citizens are pushing for this, more than it's some politicians that are pushing for it in certain interest groups.
but what would be the benefit to the interest groups? Do they think they'll get more voters? Okay.
I think so.
That would make sense. If I have a group of people that will support me, I want to add them to the voting rolls because then I get more votes.
And how do you think sanctuary cities come into play? Local people vote to make that they have just the local elections will vote to make your town or city a sanctuary city. It's all tied in.
So now in a couple of years, we're going to have a census. And, you know, we turn around and say 28,000 people know Milford's the center of the universe. 7 billion need to be educated. Well, there's 2,000 or 3,000 here that we know. So there's probably 31,000 that live in Milford, 28 of which are documented, legal, whatever term. I don't really care.
Yeah.
I mean, do you feel they should be getting full benefits?
Absolutely not. Undocumented, no. I still use the word illegal, and I know people don't like you to use. There are certain groups that don't like you to use the word illegal, and they refuse to use the word illegal. They imply that you're racist if you use that. The thing is I know who I am. I know how I feel, and I know that I'm not a racist. So I'll speak my mind, and I'll say it exactly the way I feel it is. And this is what it is. And for people to think that a census, that these people are actually going to sign up for the census, I think it's foolish.
And I think that's the problem, because when you look at federal aid and you say what the feds should be pumping into Milford is enough money, I mean, I've heard it more than once, to take care of the 31,000 people living here, not the 28,000 documented. I can see some logic in cases like medical, because if somebody's sick, I mean, Jeff Hopkins over the medical center has said he'll never turn anybody away from the ER. Somebody comes in sick.
Well, I agree with that.
You know, I mean,
I do
that's,
agree with
to
that.
me, there's
That's
basic
humane.
that
It's
says,
humane treatment against,
I don't know anybody, and there's probably somebody in Milford that I wouldn't be very proud to know that would turn their back on a sick little kid.
Oh, yeah.
But I think most people, and I've said it from the beginning, if you look up and say, Mr. Help Me, I can't imagine anybody would turn their back I know Jeff Hopkins wouldn't and his staff. So the medical I understand, but other benefits, I'm confused.
Well, taxes are not being paid. They're obviously working. People are working. I mean, you can tell by, the amount of trucks out there. Then they're not paying taxes. They have children that go to Milford Hospital that are given a Social Security number when they're born. When you enter a hospital, you fill out a form, and you've done it too, and I'm sure you've done it with your mother. You fill out forms, medical forms that say, what is your income? Do you have income? Do you own a house? No. They fill these forms out saying they have no income. I'm sorry, that's fraud. They don't pay taxes. It's tax evasion. And they can get a TIN number, which is a tax identification number. They can pay taxes if they choose to. They don't. When their children are born here and they have a Social Security number, they do qualify for SNAP benefits.
For what?
But SNAP. It's it's benefits. It's like the cards, the
okay,
EBT cards.
The
and
EBT
stuff.
cards.
Yes, you can buy certain items with it, and you can get groceries. But the parents are the guardians, so technically, the parents can get the benefits. All right. When you apply for SNAP benefits, when you apply for WIC, which I would never deny any small child the proper nutrition that they get from WIC.
No,
but the forms that are filled out, all right, people with money do not qualify for WIC and getting help. But the forms that are filled out, all these forms are signed by these parents saying there's no income. That's fraud. See, these are things that if you signed a form to get benefits and you lied about your income, there's going to be hell to pay for you.
Oh, I mean, I've always said it because they'll say, do you have income? No, I'm married with children, therefore I have no income. But when you write it down, you got to put down, I make $100 a year, I got to write 100 down.
Right. But, it is a misdemeanor to be in the United States illegally. But there's all these other things that follow it. If there were a sense of contribution, if they went into a hospital and they always ask you, do you want to pay something now? If they paid, a couple $100 to defray the cost, if they took out a TIN number and paid taxes on their income, if, they didn't apply for benefits that they very easily could afford, just don't.
Yeah, but you see, when I look at some of the people who come, I was very lucky that this country let my grandfather in.
Right.
And Milford
Same
took
here.
him in with $32.80 in his pocket, and he went to work at Porter Shoe or Milford Shoe or Bickford
Draper
Shoe. Or my mother worked at Draper.
Yep.
So you sit there and say, you got to be grateful to this country that let your family in. Otherwise, I'd be farming in the hills of Portugal. But people who come in and break the law, my sense of humor, it's like, Sandra, if I invite you into my home and you start breaking my furniture, okay, I think I got the right to tell you I really don't feel you're welcome in my home anymore.
Right.
Get out. So, when I look at people, even in Milford, who come here, I've been fortunate that I've never had to worry about feeding my children. None of us do tremendously well, but, enough of us in Milford can make enough money to feed their kids.
Yeah.
I don't know what I would do if I couldn't feed my children. Would I sneak under a wire or yeah, but once I got in, I think I put my head down and be grateful that somebody is letting me stay here and feed my children. So I got and I know it's a personal flaw, but I got a very soft spot for people who come in, work hard, pay their taxes, pull their load, and help the community.
And say, what can I do? How can I contribute?
Right.
So that you can see I'm trying to be a part of this community. It's exactly right. And
But-
those people, as I said, go to the head of the line.
Yeah, but if you
Show your
start breaking my laws, selling drugs, burglary, whatever,
That's right.
okay, I'll buy the plane ticket. But you ought to get out. I don't care. You've given up your rights, in my mind. And I hate to be cold, but
It's not only the health care part, it's the schools suffer tremendously with the cost of the ELL programs.
oh, tell me.
The translation costs.
$600,000 extra dollars last year in ELL and SPED.
And we're not talking about the kids that are sitting on the doorstep the first day of school that haven't been registered. That's a budget buster, because you
Well,
didn't plan on that.
The year that they sent the 38 kids from Texas in August, you know, we had gone before town meeting as a finance committee and said, to our best knowledge, here's the budget we think will best serve the town. And then there was a $500,000 surprise. Came 2 months after, or not even 2 months after the budget started. Now, luckily, I mean, the people of Milford have never needed Beacon Hill or Capitol Hill or any
Right.
foreign hill to tell us how to take care of our kids. And once those kids were here in Milford, they were ours, so we had to take care of them. But I remember coming up with an extra $500,000 was not chicken feed in the middle of a year.
Especially where you know that that can be used somewhere else.
Well, you always.
You know? And I agree with you. You can't deny, it's the kids, you can't deny the kids that education or, you know, or being fed or anything like that. But as far as, but it's not only that, it's just, it's the translation costs for the parents to speak with the school officials. You have to pay a translator. And that's an hourly rate that's pretty high there, and they get to have more translation time.
It's not even
than
translation.
a regular-
I mean,
I know.
I was one of those kids. I left the Heights not knowing that, what are these strange people outside my home speaking? We only spoke Portuguese. I never spoke a word of English in my house.
Yep.
You know, and you got out there, and sure enough, my mother and father were, I mean, it's terrible to say, it's a stereotypical Portuguese family.
Yeah, well,
When somebody told my father he should go to the school to support his son, his little hat, his little suit, he went down there and had no clue. He knew if he wanted to be a supportive father, Tuesday night, he should show up at the auditorium. He did. He got nothing out of it because he didn't understand a dang word. Today, it's not just the translation, but it's the whole program of trying to get parents like mine more involved and understanding of what they can do. So there's a huge cost.
the schools, everything. And I really feel like, well, if the government is sort of pushing these costs onto the, you know, to the states or the schools, they should really be contributing a little bit more.
That would be nice.
Yeah, it would be.
I mean, you know,
It
we
would-
get 47 cents on the dollar in Milford.
That's just,
That, you know, you got the equation that's
know.
that long, you know, and somehow of the 32 factors, they come out and say, you can afford to pay for 53 cents of all the education. They've never told us how. But again, God bless the people of Milford, because somehow
in
they
good
come up with the
shape.
money,
Good shape.
and they, I mean, we're lucky, because I've been on the FinCom way too long, but I've never had the problems.
You've done a great job. I have to give you credit. I couldn't
But
let
you
that
know,
pass.
we don't have the issues that I hear other towns where the school committee's fighting with the FinCom, the police. I mean, you know, I remember the year we got tight. We had to go to the school and say, we ain't got the dough. And the union came back and said, unlike a couple towns around us that were going to defer their raises, they made an offer to the town that they would give up their raises. This is the union saying, we'll give up our raises if you give us your word. And it's just your word, because selectmen, FinCom especially, influential, powerless people, because they have no power to do anything except recommend.
Right.
But the union said, if you give us your word that you'll try and keep all that savings in the school to save our teachers, we'll give up our raises. What more can you ask?
It's a very cooperative union. Yeah.
Well, but I mean, you know, the thing with the union here is it's all Milford people.
Mm-hmm.
It's people who
Oh,
were
that's
born
true.
and raised.
Right, right.
So it's not like you got a bunch of people coming in from out of state dictating for the good of the union and the detriment of your kids, this is what we're going to do. These are all Milford people. They understand. And every year, I mean, you know, been 13 years we've had a surplus.
So the union went to you, said we will accept no raise.
Yes.
And here we have our legislators giving themselves a
Yeah, and that's what-
ridiculous raise.
That's what,
If you don't like what you're getting paid, you know what you were getting paid when you applied for the job, then go look for another job. That's my answer to them. Look
Seems
for
fair.
another job.
Seems fair.
Mhm.
Now, one of the heartstring issues, gun control.
Hey, I have a license to carry,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm probably one of the safest people to be around. I really support the Second Amendment.
I'm a gun owner, to be transparent, but I have some issues when somebody says, I need to buy a gun today.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't have a problem with saying, let me plan ahead for 3 days and get vetted.
I absolutely agree with vetting. Absolutely. You know, there's nothing wrong with that.
I mean, if
I
I'm
had
going
to
to
wait.
if
Yeah.
I'm going to a gun show Saturday,
Mhm.
I can't go down and see Tom or Lieutenant Pascane on Monday or Tuesday and say, sign me up. That, to me, is not defeating the Second Amendment.
It's not.
You
It's
know,
not.
trying to tell
And
me.
I don't think you'll find too many people who have their licenses to carry that would argue against that.
No, because I use the, I remember, oh God, I'm getting old, when they passed the law that you had to have a trigger guard.
Mhm.
Now, any of us with grandchildren or children at the time wanted one anyway.
Exactly.
But, you know, I sat there and I said, I wonder how many of the illegal drug dealers with their illegal pistols
You're right.
ran out
You're
and
right.
said,
You're right.
oh, I got to get a trigger guard because I could get in trouble while I'm selling illegal drugs if I don't have a trigger guard. You know, it just seems like sometimes you're putting rules on me who follows the rules.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. It's exactly right. And that's what people, you're always going to find when something isn't fair. This is what the problems are. When you feel that you're not being treated fairly, you know, you've done nothing wrong and you're not getting fair treatment. And you see other people who are breaking the law being handled with kid gloves. And you're sitting here doing everything you can to do the right thing, and somebody else isn't.
See, and again,
And they're being protected.
I went downtown and they took my fingerprints.
Mhm.
And I have no doubt that in the papers I signed, somewhere I said, you can send my fingerprints
Oh, yeah.
to Pennsylvania Ave, 9th and Penn, and the FBI can look in their little database and say, yeah,
That's right.
no, he's not an axe murderer or something. But then, why is that different if I'm not legal? I mean, that's the part I'm still struggling with. If I'm an American, why do I have less rights?
I can't answer that for you. You know, you need to go to the groups that are pushing
So now,
for rights.
how would you help Milford? We're talking about state issues and overall strategic issues. But
Honestly, it's the funding for schools is one of them, because as I said, I was on the school committee for 5 years, and it's really the Chapter 70 money is, you know, and there's more and more children with, you see autism, and you see special needs, that it's very demanding and it's hard on the parents, and there just really isn't enough money to provide the proper programs. And you never know when you're going to get that one or two that can pretty much devastate your budget.
Well, we budget SPED and ELL separately.
Mhm.
You know, as a FinCom years ago, we broke out the school budget into 4 areas. One was mortgages, let's call it bonds for school buildings.
Mhm.
One was benefits, because dang benefits, health benefits are going up 8-10% a year.
That's right.
And the school had virtually no control. The third one was their normal budget, day-to-day running the schools. And then the fourth was SPED and ELL. Because we recognized that you could get 1 or 2 kids come in, and it could cost you $100 grand, $120 grand versus the 10 for a typical kid. So you get 2 kids come in and you're $250, $300 in the hole.
And especially if you have one comes in late in the game after,
After April 1st,
and then they're going to a private
well then it's a
facility.
couple $100,000.
And then it's probably 250.
Yeah.
The last time I checked, it was 250. These are things you have no control over. And if there could be more help, you know, with federal funding, rather than have the town have to absorb that cost. I know in small communities like Hopedale, those are budget busters for us.
Sure.
You know, so there's got to be some.
Well, $500,000 isn't, you know, a trivial annoyance for us here.
Right.
But to a Hopedale budget,
But
$500,000.
Yeah, compared to, you know, the accessible money. But I think I'm not by any means saying that Milford shouldn't be getting anything,
Right.
or that Mendon shouldn't, or that Medway, or any community for that fact. It's just that I think the government needs to extend a little bit more help.
But where do they get the money? If you don't want to increase taxes, to me, the only way you keep taxes low is you spend less.
That's exactly it.
But now, where would you look to save money?
Well, I'm not in there yet. Let me tell you something. I'm a research queen. I find things, and that's what I mean. I'd have to look. I'm not in there yet, so I can't really tell you. That would be off the top of my head, and it would just be guessing, and I don't do that.
Are there any special projects or groups that you'd want to specially take care of in Milford?
Well, I'm really big in the opioid. I'm on the Hopedale Opioid Task Force, and that's a huge, huge issue. And I just attended what they call a drug court in Uxbridge.
A what?
It's called drug court. What it is that anybody who has committed crimes, and maybe they're addicted to drugs or it's relation, you get offered a different program. You can either choose to get your sentence and pay the price, or you can go into this drug program.
But do you think people, I mean, when Amy Leone and Tom O'Loughlin came, they opened my eyes to what the current heroin user looks like. Because I'm older, but when I grew up, you'd think of a heroin.
You can pick them up.
And you could sit there and say, oh, it's a skeezy, scuzzy guy in a dark alley in Boston. You know, never one of us. And all of a sudden, they're talking about neighborhoods in Milford whose kids were playing soccer, football, and got hooked on Oxy as a painkiller. And now I guess it's $1 a mig, so it's like $80 a tablet on the street.
It is. 3
tablets a day. I'm sorry to be my analytical chemist. Where could the kid get $250 a day?
Where do you think they get it?
Well,
they ended up breaking the law.
They break the law, but even then. So then they tell me there's the slippery slope to heroin, because that's, instead of $80 a hit, it's like 10.
It's cheap.
Yeah.
Heroin's really cheap.
So what do we do? You can't just take them out and beat them. You know, I mean,
No.
these are our families.
This drug court is phenomenal, and I was skeptical in the beginning and stuff, and saying, you know, why are you going to baby people? But you know something, this is a really, really, really bad situation, and people who get involved in drugs like that are not in their right mind. They're not in their right mind.
Once they're on the drugs,
you're done.
The free will is gone.
And exactly. And things are being cut with fentanyl now, and with all of this, the car fentanyl is the stuff that's so dangerous.
Now it's an order of magnitude or two.
Well, it's now, and now police departments and our fire departments are at a risk that they have to totally protect themselves if there's any white powder. This car fentanyl, just a touch of it
Yeah, it can
put them
absorb.
into, yes. But this drug court was just phenomenal. It gave them a choice. And it's not a short program, and it's not kid glove either. And the stories that were told, I don't know if I could have survived.
Well, when Amy told me about
Oh.
the little girls, you know, that you think you're so proud of, watching neighbors or friends' daughters play soccer and they hurt their knee and they all of a sudden go down this road that now they're god dang heroin users, and you'd sit there and say, no, not little Sally. So I don't know
Or the
what
kid
to do.
that grew up with parents that
Oh.
are constant drug addicts, and the parents give them drugs.
So what do you do?
Well, I think the program is just wonderful. It's a great start, and it's a fantastic program, and this is how you help ease people out. Education, education, education. I want every school to be able, the kids that gave their talk, they're graduating from this drug thing. It's amazing. I want these kids to just go to schools and talk to their own peers. Kids will listen to other kids, and they understand the same language. And I'd love to see that, but I don't want once a year, before prom or things like that.
I was like the
want it like
absence
3 or
program
4
where they
times
just said,
a year.
once a year say don't.
Yeah. And,
Okay.
Okay, and then it's out the window. But the thing is that at least 4 times a year, have these kids in there
See,
reminding them.
kids will talk and other kids will listen.
Exactly.
I mean, it's hard to look at somebody and say, do you realize what an efficient drug, fentanyl, heroin, it's a respiratory inhibitor. Its purpose in life
That's
is
right.
to stop the respiratory system. And it does a great job. It'll keep you from breathing.
Yeah, see, that doesn't work.
But when you look at kids, they'll look at you and say, respiratory, wait a minute, I'm immortal.
Yeah.
You know,
See,
I mean,
all I know is I feel really great when
Yeah.
I'm taking it. But I think to have them talk to their peers, have somebody come in and tell the horror stories associated with their life. There's some of these kids grew up in just the most horrible situations, and I don't even know how they're standing and talking about it
well,
now.
some of these kids, their stories, I hate to say it, but you said, not my Milford. They must be from far, far away. And then they tell you the street in Milford they're from. And my eyes open up saying, this is happening in my
Yes.
sainted little town?
Yes. Probably a few houses down from you.
Well, that's, again, the scariest part.
Mhm.
But, Sandra, I'm from Milford. Why should I vote for you?
You should vote for me because, as I said, every time I vote, every time I file a bill, every time I file a petition, it's going to be in the best interest of my community and the state of Massachusetts. It's not going to be my self-interest or my party's interest. It's going to be in the best interest of the people that voted me in. Not just the people that voted me in, obviously, but the entire community. Because that's what you do. And I'm a research king. I will never, never, never be pushed into voting for something that I don't believe in. I don't do that.
Now, the one last horrible question I got to ask. People say, I always vote for somebody from Milford. You're not from Milford. How would you answer that?
I grew up in Milford. I remember Milford how it used to be, too. I've worked in Milford for 31 years. Right next door in Hopedale. It's a stone's throw away from where I live. But, I mean, it's still in my heart. I remember old Milford, and I know what I can do. I just have to be given the chance.
But the Slatteries are not from outside of Milford.
No.
I was going to say, my class, we had a Slat. We had Karen.
And we had the Gandolfis. They're down. They were on the other side of the tracks. They came in as immigrants. They went through the process. So I have all these reminders, and I know how Milford used to be. And there's nothing wrong with, you know, rehabbing the town, refurbishing.
I had to get that out on the table, because
It
when I
has to
hear, and I had the hardest time calling you a Biagetti, because
Biagettis, the Biagettis.
it was
are
always,
lifer-
but it was
they're
always
lifers.
Slatteries. It was always the Slatteries.
And
Again, to our 6 loyal viewers, thanks for joining us. I won't ask you to vote for anybody specific, but I'll beg you to vote. So please get out election day, cast your ballot for the person who you think will best represent your values, and it'll be best for Milford. So to our 6 loyal viewers, good night, may God bless, and may tomorrow be a better night than
Yes.
tonight.
Good night and God bless. Yes.
Thanks.